So there is actually supposed to be no parallel licensing. What is happening in Mumbai right now is should be an open access transaction, just like all other open access transactions.
Uh, what is happening is between us and Tata's, which is open access. The reason being that Tata's were already a licensee in the area, and we did not want to come in the way of benefit coming to the consumer. So we said we have no problem, provided the regulator decides on the cross subsidy, because obviously otherwise it's going to hit the remaining consumers. So we're waiting for the regulator to decide on that form.
So now the consumer feels, is this correct if I say the consumer feels that your competitor Tata Power is now possibly doing what is called cherry picking, which means going to the top end of your consumers who can pay good amounts of money, taking them away, and that means that you have a narrower sum of revenue coming from your existing consumers, and because these same existing consumers have to cross subsidize the poorer consumers, which is the people who cannot afford it in the slums or the shanties or the rural loads, whatever. So this means you have a big revenue gap which you're unable to meet. So sir, how do we ensure that the universal service obligation, which means obligation to all customers, even the poor people, is still met?
You see, let's put it this way, that it is a must that the cross subsidy surcharge is decided. Failing which, the consequence of that would be that the tariff of the remaining consumer has to go up, which would make it again non-competitive, because as you rightly said, cherry picking is being done. Now you raise the tariff of these people, so there will be a constant shift of consumers and imbalance creation because of this. Now, obviously, we have our right to stop Tata's using our network, because the law provides that every distribution licensee has to lay his own network. So we are hopeful that regulator will take a appropriate decision on the cross subsidy so that the consumers are not loaded.
So finally, we'd like to know, Reliance Infra has been investing a fair amount of money from whatever little you do make of the consumer supply business of electricity in Mumbai into technological upgradements. Would you like to tell us what do you envisage in the next 5 to 10 years of improving the distribution infrastructure? Is it possible that we can have a smart grid? Is it possible that customers can monitor their power consumption better and perhaps save?
See, smart grid, you have to divide into two segments. One is what is in the distribution licenses area, and the second one is in the consumers area. As far as distribution licenses area are concerned, probably we are almost there, except that we have not implemented the communication on power line. We have not implemented the remote management of the meters. That means you can disconnect and you reconnect. That's the element which is still remaining. We have automatic meter reading, which is AMR. We have all our network metered. We every month do our energy audit, so we know which particular segment of the distribution system is incurring what kind of a loss. So we have reached a quite advanced stage on smartness of the network. We have GIS. GIS is our main platform. It is supported by SAP, ISU, CCS, which are again the supportive platform. So it's quite a comprehensive and integrated system we have.
Finally, sir, what is your vision for the next 10 to 15 years? What can the consumers of Mumbai look forward to in terms of power supply?
Well, reliability, we are already there. Our dream would be that consumer can do everything sitting at home, and he did not bother to visit any of our offices. And we have taken a step towards that. We just launched for the building and power group first as a first phase, whereby they can make an application sitting at home. They can upload all the supporting documents sitting at home, and our people will process and go there for installation of meter, and at that time they'll pick up the documents from them. So that closes the requirement of his coming to us. Anything he wants to communicate, he can do through internet, he can do through our call centers, so he doesn't have to come for that. All payments he can do sitting at home through internet. So we are trying to cover entire perspective of dealing with the consumer and consumer dealing with us. He can do sitting at home.
Is it possible for the customer to know how much electricity he is using? Can the discom by any chance help him so that he can manage his power bill better? I've seen the power bills that you issue. You have the other side of the power bill which talks about how much a typical fan uses, how much a typical AC uses. So that gives him some idea. But can we take this a little ahead?
See, we are in the process of launching a portal whereby you can have your consumption pattern online. We are done on a sample basis with iGoogle. We were the only ones who got associated with iGoogle on that. It's called Power Meter. And you can know entire history of your consumption every hour basis. We have developed our own in-house portal which is much higher on analytical ability, and we will be exploring that to launch in due course of time.
Finally, sir, the Planning Commission just recently, reiterated the idea of time of day pricing. So, would discoms in Mumbai, especially yours, would you be ready to implement something like this?
See, the tariff making is regulator's prerogative. We already have the meters which divide the time slot into 5 slots, which is what is provided. In fact, part of it has already been implemented, because if the high-end consumer uses electricity between 10 o'clock in the night and 6 o'clock in the morning, he does not pay any demand charge for that. So he can maximize his demand uses during that period, and if he controls his demand during the day, then he pays lower demand charges, so that he can do saving of cost in case he's able to manage and shift his power, his load requirement into those timings. But whether it can be extended further, whether it can be implemented to the next level of consumers, I think it will take some time.